The evening sun dipped below the horizon, casting an amber glow over the quiet suburban street. Inside the Johnson family home, the aroma of spaghetti simmered on the stove, filling the air with a sense of comfort and warmth. Laughter echoed from the living room where Sam, the youngest, was wrestling with his older sister, Mia, over the remote control. Inside, everything felt perfect. Outside, however, fate had different plans. A sharp, high-pitched cry pierced through the evening calm, sending a chill down Mia's spine. The sound was so desperate, so filled with anguish that she dropped the remote mid-wrestle. She exclaimed, "Probably just a raccoon," Sam replied nonchalantly, still fixated on the screen. But the cry came again, more insistent this time, echoing like a plea for help. Mia shot up from the couch, her heart racing, and rushed to the front door. With every step, the cold doorknob sent a jolt of urgency through her. "Mom." "Dad," she called, flinging the door open. Standing on the threshold was a tiny golden puppy, no more than a few months old. Its little body trembled as it looked up at Mia with tear-filled brown eyes, imploring her for solace. The puppy's fur was matted and dirt coated its paws, evidence of the hardships it faced even in its few short weeks of life. Mia gasped, crouching down. The puppy whimpered, taking a cautious step forward as if sensing the hope in her tone. Within seconds, their parents appeared behind her, Dad's brow furrowed with concern, and Mom's expression shifted from confusion to compassion. Dad asked, peering over Mia's shoulder. She exclaimed, barely able to contain her excitement and worry. Mom squatted beside Mia, gently extending her hand toward the puppy. "Hey there, little one," she cooed softly. The puppy took a tentative step forward, sniffing at her fingers, cautiously welcoming this newfound warmth. As they all knelt on their porch, the world around them faded into the background. The sky bled into shades of violet, and the first stars glittered like tiny hopes awakening. The only thing that mattered was this small, trembling creature in front of them. The puppy nuzzled against Mom's hand, and a collective intake of breath filled the air. A love story was blossoming on their threshold. "Can we keep it?" Mia pleaded, glancing from Mom to Dad. Sam bounced on the balls of his feet, capturing the precious moment with wide, eager eyes. Dad's face softened, but a familiar hesitation crept into his voice. "We can't just take in a stray, guys. What if it has a family?" Mom nodded in agreement. "Let's take it to a vet tomorrow." Reluctantly, Mia stood, her heart heavy with the thought of a family somewhere missing their little pup. But she couldn't just leave this furry ball of hope alone. She asked, her voice trembling with determination. Dad sighed, rubbing his temple as he weighed the options. Finally, he relented. "Okay." Cheers erupted from the kids as Mia scooped up the puppy, cradling it in her arms. Inside, the kitchen transformed into a sanctuary. They found a spare blanket that had seen better days and fashioned a cozy spot on the floor. Mia held the puppy close, whispering sweet nothings while Sam rummaged for old dog food they saved for their neighbor's dog. Sam exclaimed, eyes shining. As the puppy nibbled on the food, the family marveled at its resilience. They laughed as the tiny creature pawed at the bits of food, its tail slowly starting to wag, a flicker of joy rising from the darkness. But as the warmth settled in, a darker gravity began to pull at them. Silence filled the room, each face absorbed in unspoken worries. "I really hope it doesn't belong to someone," Mom finally said, breaking the spell. Those words hung in the air. They were hopeful, yet laced with the burden of responsibility. Night deepened, and the soft hum of crickets filtered through the window. They cuddled together on the couch, the puppy nestled comfortably between them. It was a surreal sense of peace that came after a whirlwind of uncertainty. But as they watched the flickering light from the television, Mia's heart thudded with a resolve stronger than ever. As the family drifted into slumber, unaware of the challenges tomorrow would bring, the puppy lay curled up, dreamily chasing sunsets in the depths of its mind. Morning dawned bright and busy. Mia pored over neighborhood forums, checking lost pet listings, while Sam played with the puppy that tugged on his shoelaces. They decided to take it for a walk around the block, hoping for some divine clue. As they strolled, Sam laughed, watching the puppy bound around like it had just discovered its purpose, filling the world with joy, one hop at a time. He asked, the innocence of childhood brightening his face. Proposed Mia, glancing down at the pup, sun-drenched fur glowing in the morning light. Their laughter rang out, euphoric and full of promise. But with each passing moment, the joy danced with worry. Each door they knocked on, each face they met brought a mix of hope and dread. No one recognized the puppy, no one claimed ownership. They crossed streets, canvassed parks, and shared photos on social media, pushing the lost puppy deeper into their hearts. But as twilight began to settle over the horizon, exhaustion weighed heavily on their shoulders. Sam suggested, his bright eyes dimming just a little. Mom sighed, looking off into the distance as if she could will the universe to deliver an answer. "We have to be responsible, kids." Finally, just as they thought they'd hit a wall, a notification flashed on Mia's phone. A message from a neighborhood group. "Puppy found near Oak and Pine." Mia's heart raced. This is it. They quickly composed a message, including a picture of the puppy, and as they hit send, a horrible feeling filled the space where hope once thrived. Would they really have to say goodbye? Minutes felt like hours as they waited, the gravitational pull of impending loss growing heavier. Just when despair began to settle in, her phone vibrated. "We found you." Heart pounding, Mia dialed the number, the gritty realities of life crashing in, muddling her thoughts with a familiar ache. She stammered, "Oh yes, that's Lucy." They quickly exchanged details, and before long a car pulled up in front of their house, tires crunching on the gravel. A middle-aged couple stepped out, eyes wide with worry and every bit of gratitude. She cried. The puppy perked up at the sound of her name. She tore away from Mia's grasp, darting toward her family like a rose reaching for the sun. Yelps of excitement punctuated the air as Lucy reunited with her family. Tears streamed down the woman's face as she embraced her puppy, squeezing her as if afraid to let go again. Mia felt a mix of emotions, joy for Lucy, sadness for herself. She had dreamed of all the adventures they could have had, the happiness they could have shared. "Thank you for taking care of her," the woman said, her voice thick with gratitude. Mia nodded, fighting back tears. In that tiny moment, the act of kindness wrapped around them like a warm blanket. The couple expressed their profound gratitude, sharing the story of how Lucy had managed to escape the backyard while they were away. As the family said their goodbyes, Mia felt a piece of her heart tuck itself away in that little golden furball, an imprint of love that would never fade. The couple drove away with Lucy in the back, a howling beacon of joy echoing down the street. The sun dipped low again, casting shadows over the Johnson family home. Underneath the weight of divided hearts, they instinctively hugged one another, an unspoken resolution forming. "We did a good thing," Mom said softly. Sam nodded, voice barely above a whisper. Though Lucy had left their home, something profound had shifted in the Johnsons. They realized that love sometimes meant letting go, that kindness often opened doors they didn't even know they wanted to walk through. As the stars appeared one by one, illuminating the sky, they sat together on the porch, wrapped in silent comfort. The breeze carried the sweet scent of possibilities as they began to dream again, not just of puppies, but of compassion and connection, remembrances of warmth and love they had shared with a little orphaned soul. And from somewhere deep in the night, the echoes of a joyful bark danced on the evening wind, reminding them that each new beginning often comes from a bittersweet goodbye. The late afternoon sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the Johnson family's cozy home. The smell of freshly baked cookies wafted through the air, mingling with the sounds of laughter and playful teasing from the living room. Sam and Mia, the two kids, were deep in an epic battle over who would control the TV remote, while their parents, Mark and Lisa, exchanged knowing glances, secretly enjoying the playful chaos. But outside, the peaceful serenity shattered. A heart-wrenching cry emerged from the front porch, rising above the laughter and chatter. The plea was sharp and desperate, reverberating with an urgency that cut through the comforting sounds of family life. Mia froze mid-laugh, her eyes darting toward the front door. Her voice trembled with concern. Sam rolled his eyes, still fixated on the screen. "Probably just a cat or something," he shrugged, unwilling to abandon their game. But the sound came again, more insistent, almost heartbreaking. It pierced the walls of their home, tugging at their hearts, an echo of sorrow that couldn't be ignored. Moments later, curiosity took hold of Mia. She leaped up from her spot on the couch, fear and determination mingling in her chest. She pushed open the door, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Standing on their porch was a tiny puppy, trembling with fear, its big brown eyes brimming with tears that sparkled in the sunlight. The little furball was no more than a few months old, covered in dirt and matted fur, a pitiful sight soaked in desperation. Every whimper pulled at Mia's heartstrings. She gasped, crouching down to get a closer look. Puppy took a hesitant step forward, crying softly, as if it could sense Mia's compassion radiating through the air. Behind her, the sounds of the living room faded into the background as Mark and Lisa emerged, drawn by the commotion. The sight of the trembling puppy made Lisa's breath hitch in her throat. She asked, her brows furrowing in concern. Mia exclaimed, holding out her arms, revealing the quivering creature like it was the most precious treasure. Sam joined them, eyes wide, as he took in the scene. He shouted, his childish enthusiasm mixing with worry. The puppy peered up at them, its little tail wagging cautiously. Mark sighed, his brow knitted with hesitation. "We can't just take in a stray dog, guys, but it's so sad," Mia pleaded, gripping the puppy closer to her chest, the warmth of the tiny creature radiating comfort. The softness of the puppy's fur against her skin began to dissolve the doubts swirling in her father's mind. Lisa knelt beside Mia, her heart melting at the sight. Mark nodded slowly, a smile creeping onto his face despite the tension in his heart. "All right," cheers erupted from the kids as the puppy nestled into Mia's arms, a fragile bundle of hope fastening itself to their lives. They set about making the little pup feel at home. Inside, the kitchen buzzed with excitement and nervous energy. Mia and Sam scrambled to gather an old blanket, transforming the living room into a temporary sanctuary, while Lisa searched for dog food leftovers from their neighbor. As the puppy explored its new surroundings, fear slowly faded away, replaced with innocent curiosity. It sniffed at the couch, its tiny paws tapping lightly against the wooden floor, tail wagging tentatively. They all laughed as it bounced around, its clumsy steps resembling a toddler discovering their legs for the first time. Mia, sitting cross-legged on the floor, watched with adoration as the puppy circled back to her. she asked, her eyes sparkling. "Lucy," Sam blurted out, and everyone agreed. Lucy plopped down beside Mia, resting her head on her lap, a bond forming in that simple gesture, a promise of trust and loyalty that would unfold in unexpected ways. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows in every corner of the room, a silence fell over the Johnson family. It was beautiful and serene until the burdens of reality crept back in. The joy of finding Lucy was heavily intertwined with the thought of her missing family. Lisa mused, her voice soft yet heavy with the weight of possibility. It was a question that hung in the air, carrying the potential for heartbreak. "I hope not," Sam muttered, fighting back his sadness. Mia looked down at Lucy, who now lay adorably curled up, blissfully unaware of the tension flickering around her. Her determination reignited like a flame. "Let's post about her on the neighborhood page," Lisa suggested as they gathered in front of the computer, hopeful yet apprehensive. As the night wore on, they crafted a heartfelt post detailing Lucy's appearance, sharing a photograph that captured her soulful eyes. Once it was shared into the ether of the internet, they clung to thoughts of potential reunion, not knowing what the morning would bring. The next day dawned bright, yet laden with uncertainty. Mia awoke with a swirling blend of optimism and anxiety. She rushed to check the notification on her phone, but nothing had come through. Her heart sank a little. "Let's take Lucy for a walk around the neighborhood," Sam suggested, his energy undeterred. As they stepped outside, the sun felt warm against their skin, and Lucy's little tail wagged furiously, oblivious to the questions hanging in the air. They strolled down the block, stopping at homes, knocking on doors, each face revealing the same mix of kindness and curiosity, but no one recognized the small pup. With each passing moment, Mia's heart began to ache. They posted flyers around the neighborhood, their faces beaming next to Lucy's picture, a mission of kindness to reunite a lost creature with its family. But time moved slowly, and soon it was evening again. They gathered in their cozy living room, the sameness of the walls a reminder of all they had come to care for, yet also of what they might have to lose. "It feels like no one is looking for her," Mia sighed, brushing her fingers through Lucy's fur. Sam's face crumpled with sadness, his youthful excitement dimmed. In the heavy silence, Mark spoke, breaking through their shared despair. "Even if nobody comes forward for her, we have to be careful." Suddenly, a notification flashed across Mia's screen, electrifying the air with excitement. She exclaimed, her heart racing like a drummer in a parade. They crowded around the screen, anticipation crackling like static electricity. They said they think they might know her. Just as elation swept through them, a shadow thick with uncertainty settled onto Mia's young shoulders. This wasn't just another happy ending. There were real emotions tied to this journey. Minutes felt like years until finally Mia dialed the number they received from the online post. Her heart thumped in her chest, a mix of nerves and hope swirling within her. "Hi," she said, her voice quivering with emotion. There was a pause on the other end, a breath before the floodgates opened. "We lost her last week." The voice was filled with relief and urgency. Time slipped as they exchanged details, the conversation revealing the profound bond this family shared with their pup, a bond that Mia herself had grown to cherish. As they made arrangements for the reunion, emotions ran high. A wave of bittersweet sadness swept over Mia. She had fallen in love with Lucy, yet the thought of her returning home tied her heart in knots. Later that evening, as dusk settled over the Johnson home, the doorbell rang, slicing through the silence, bringing a rush of memories. Lisa quickly ushered everyone to the entryway. Opening the door, Mia stood as a trembling figure, not the little girl who had found a stray pup, but rather a young guardian bracing herself to let go. The couple standing before her wore expressions laden with gratitude and relief. The woman cried, collapsing to her knees. The puppy, fresh from the arms of the Johnsons, exploded with energy, dashing into her family's embrace. The reunion was electric, emotion pulsing through the air like a beautiful storm. Tears streamed down the woman's face as she held Lucy tightly, whispering sweet apologies and promises of never letting her slip away again. The husband stood nearby, a proud smile cutting through the worry etched on his face. Mia felt the joy radiating from them, yet her heart felt heavy. "Thank you so much for taking care of her," the woman said, eyes glistening with sincerity. As they exchanged final thoughts and stories, Mia realized how significant this small act of kindness had turned into something much greater. The worry and sadness she felt began to dissolve into something else: gratitude for the journey they had taken together. They had not only helped a lost puppy, they had discovered a new layer of compassion and understanding that bonded them as a family. Standing at the doorway, watching Lucy run back to her family, Mia felt a surge of love, the blush of farewell. Just as Lucy had found her way home, so had the Johnson family discovered their strength to say goodbye. As the car pulled away, the sun setting in the background, the Johnsons stood together, united in the bittersweet harmony of their experience. They loved fiercely and let go gracefully, and it was the most remarkable lesson they could have ever learned together. The sky darkened, stars appearing like tiny beacons, and in that moment, the Johnson family understood that love is not always about possession. Sometimes love means giving someone back to where they truly belong, And sometimes, in the acts of kindness we perform, we find pieces of ourselves we never knew existed. A soft whimper echoed through the quiet suburban street, cutting through the evening stillness like a knife. The Johnson family was gathered around the dinner table, laughter mixing with the rich aroma of pasta and garlic bread. But the sudden cry, fragile and desperate, sent a ripple of concern through the air. Mia, the youngest of the family, asked, her fork frozen midair. "I don't know," replied Sam, her older brother, who looked up from his plate, brows knitted in confusion. Just then, another plaintive cry pierced the calm, pulling their attention toward the front door. It was a sound that rumbled with vulnerability, a call for help that demanded to be answered. Mom asked, glancing at Dad, who had already stood up, a sense of purpose in his stride. The kids rushed to the door, pulses quickening. Mia gripped the doorknob, unsure whether to push it open or retreat. With a deep breath, she turned the knob, flinging the door wide open. What greeted them on the threshold changed everything. A tiny puppy crouched on the welcome mat, shivering as the cold night air sailed around it. Its big, brown eyes brimmed with tears, and its whimpers seemed to echo the emptiness that cloaked its tiny body. The fur was matted and dirt-streaked, a pitiful sight that tugged at every heartstring in the household. Mia gasped, kneeling down to meet the puppy's gaze. It took a step forward, its little tail hesitatingly wagging, trying to muster courage against the tears that stained its cheeks. Sam's voice was small, the gravity of the situation sinking in as they all realized this was no ordinary moment. With an urgent nod from Dad, Mia gathered the puppy into her arms. "We need to help it," she declared, her voice filled with determination. Inside the house, the atmosphere shifted. Mom rushed to grab a towel, while Dad rummaged through the pantry for any dog food they might have from a neighbor's recent visit. The kitchen buzzed with activity, a bustling hive of compassion gathering around this unexpected guest. As they wrapped the shivering puppy in a warm towel, the little creature began to relax, nestled against Mia's chest. She asked, her eyes glittering with hope. "Lucy," Sam suggested without hesitation. The name felt right, like a ray of sunshine in a cloudy sky. Over the next few hours, Lucy was bathed in warmth, both physically and emotionally. Their safe haven became her sanctuary. The Johnson family gathered around her, laughing as they watched her explore their living room, her ears flopping adorably with each exuberant bounce. But as the laughter faded into the background, a more somber question lingered in the air. Mom finally said, her brow furrowed with concern. They decided to take Lucy for a stroll around the neighborhood, an impromptu effort to track down any possible owners. As they walked, Lucy trotted happily beside Mia, but a heavy sinking feeling clawed at her stomach. This puppy had already wedged her way into their hearts, and the thought of losing her felt unbearable. "Maybe we should check online," Sam suggested as they returned home. They gathered around the computer, fingers typing furiously to draft a post to share in hopes of tracking down Lucy's family. The clock ticked on, with every second stretching into eternity. With the post shared and flyers printed, they plastered their neighborhood with Lucy's adorable face, but as that day turned into night, an unsettling quiet settled over the family. Mia tossed and turned in her bed, pulling the blankets close, remembering Lucy's trusting eyes. Her heart thudded against her ribs, both anxious and elated. They had made a promise to protect her, and it was a weight they all felt keenly. The next few days were a whirlwind of hope and growing frustration. Mia and Sam took Lucy on walks, their conversations filled with speculations about her past. Maybe she had a family looking for her. Or perhaps she had escaped a bad situation, seeking refuge in a place where love resided. Then one bright afternoon, a knock on the door jolted them from their daydreams. Mia rushed to answer, her heart racing. Standing there was a tall woman with wild hair and a look of pure desperation in her eyes. She gasped, breathless with urgency. Mia's heart sank, the realization crashing in on her like a wave. This was Lucy's owner. For a moment, neither of them spoke, each woman searching the other's face for answers. Mia finally managed, feeling the weight of hope and heartache darting between them. "Yes," the woman's voice was thick with tears. Mia stepped back, glancing at Lucy, who was wagging her tail furiously, blissfully unaware of the emotional storm brewing in the room. The woman implored, her eyes pleading. Mia hesitated. She felt the warmth of Lucy's body against her legs, felt the bond they had formed, the joy she had brought into their lives. "We've taken care of her. We've been looking for you too," she admitted, a lump forming in her throat. "I know, and I can't thank you enough," the woman said, tears spilling down her cheeks. "But Lucy is my family, and I've missed her every single moment." As the woman bent down, reaching out for Lucy, something inside Mia clenched hard. This puppy was not just a stray, she was a treasured part of someone's life, someone who had searched endlessly for her. Lucy bounded forward, tail wagging, as if sensing the love radiating from her human. The reunion was magnetic, electric. The woman cried as she scooped Lucy into her arms, clutching her as if she were the most precious treasure in the world. Mia felt both joy and sorrow swirling inside her, a whirlpool of emotions that threatened to drown her. She realized she had to let go, because love meant not holding on, but allowing someone to return home. "Thank you for taking such good care of her," the woman said softly, brushing the tears from her eyes. Mia nodded, her heart aching but understanding that love can take many forms. "I'm just glad she's safe with you now," she managed to say, forcing a smile through her tears. As they exchanged contact information, the tension in the air began to dissipate, replaced by the embrace of something profound. Maybe this wasn't just about finding Lucy's family. It was about the connection they had all shared, the bond forged in such a short amount of time. Just before the woman left, she turned back, her voice shaking. "If you ever want to visit us, we'd love to have you." As she walked away with Lucy nestled securely in her arms, Mia felt a sense of closure settle in her heart. It was bittersweet, like a melody that lingered long after the song had ended. Days turned into weeks, but the imprint of that experience stayed with the Johnson family. Each night, they would sit together, reminiscing about their short yet impactful time with Lucy. Mia would often gaze at the sky, wondering where Lucy was now and if she remembered them. Then one evening, as they were sharing dinner, a familiar ringtone echoed through the house, a text message. Mia's heart raced as she grabbed her phone, reading the name displayed. It was Lucy's owner. "Hey. Just wanted to share some pictures of Lucy. She's settling in so well." Mia felt her smile wide and bright, a reminder that love stretches across distances, connecting hearts no matter where they end up. Moments later, the screen lit up with adorable photos, Lucy rolling in a field of daisies, her eyes sparkling in the warmth of the sun. She looked happy, truly happy, and it filled Mia with warmth she couldn't quite describe. In that simple exchange, the Johnsons found a new kind of joy. They came to realize that giving meant receiving, and that in opening their hearts to another, they had transformed the narrative. With every story they shared about Lucy's adventures in her new home, the family felt a renewed sense of purpose, evolving into a story about love that doesn't ask for ownership but extends itself freely. And lurking just beneath their reflections was an understanding they had gained. Compassion, they found, has a way of stretching and growing, creating connections that can survive goodbyes. As stars twinkled overhead, the Johnson family sat huddled together, hearts intertwined across distances, a beautiful tapestry woven from threads of love, loss, and the undeniable magic of the bond they had shared with a little puppy named Lucy. The soft glow of evening light spilled through the kitchen window, illuminating the Johnson family home. Dinner preparations were underway, the comforting aroma of roasting chicken mingling with the chatter of two excited children. Mia and Sam were bickering lightly over the best way to set the table, their voices rising and falling like waves. Laughter echoed in the background, creating the warmth of a typical evening. But outside, a sharp, heart-wrenching cry splintered the calm. It was the kind of sound you can't ignore, a whimper that clawed at your heart, begging for attention. Sam paused mid-argument, eyebrows shooting up. Mia exclaimed, her playful demeanor shifting to one of concern. The cry came again, pitiful, desperate. Mia dashed to the front door, feeling an electric buzz of urgency. Sam followed closely, both children's hearts racing as they pulled open the heavy door. What stood on the doorstep made their breaths catch in their throats. A small, trembling puppy sat on the welcome mat, its tiny body shaking. The dog's fur was dirty and matted, hind legs quivering, eyes wide and pleading. It let out another wail, this one quaking with fear and loneliness piercing the air around them. Mia gasped, dropping to her knees. Sam added, kneeling beside his sister. The puppy looked at them, tail tucked, eyes like shining marbles, pleading for help. It took a tentative step forward, trembling but hopeful. "Come here, little buddy," Mia coaxed gently, reaching out a hand. As she extended her fingers, the puppy inched closer, finally nuzzling against Mia's palm, feeling the warmth of her touch. It's a simple act, but in that moment a bond began to form, fragile yet powerful. Their parents, drawn by the commotion, hurried to the door. Lisa, their mother, stood at the entrance with a worried look. She asked, eyes darting from the kids to the scruffy creature. Sam said, unable to contain his excitement. He gently scratched the puppy behind the ears, and for a split second they all forgot about the chaos of the world outside. Mark, the father, stepped closer, kneeling down to get a better look. "We can't just keep a stray pup, kids. She might belong to someone," he reminded them gently, eyeing the small creature's dirt-speckled fur. Mia exclaimed, her voice rising. The puppy glanced back at Mia, tail slowly wagging, eyes shimmering with something that felt almost like hope. "We can at least give her some food and water," Lisa suggested, a softening of her heart evident in her tone, "and maybe a blanket." Sam jumped up, racing inside to fetch a bowl and some leftover dog food from the neighbor's last visit. In the meantime, Mia cradled the puppy in her arms, feeling the fragile warmth seep through her shirt. When Lisa returned with a soft towel, they gently wrapped the puppy, who began to settle into Mia's embrace. In that moment, the world outside faded away. The puppy melted against her, breathing softly. They decided to name her Daisy, a name that felt just right. Daisy had a sprightliness to her, even despite the hardships she must have faced. With Daisy safe inside, the family gathered in the living room, their laughter renewed as they played with the wiggly pup, tossing toys and making silly sounds. Daisy chased after a stuffed bunny, her tail wagging furiously, a burst of energy illuminated by their affection. But as the night wore on, a question loomed over them. What if there was a family missing this joyful little creature? As Lisa tucked Daisy into a cozy spot by the fireplace, the reality hung heavily in the air. "We should definitely check for a caller tomorrow," Mark said, trying to inject a note of reality back into their rosy world. Mia nodded, biting her lip. "I hope she's not lost for good," she whispered, glancing down at Daisy, who had fallen asleep, dreaming of chasing butterflies. As night fell, the family settled into their usual routines, but the presence of Daisy changed everything. The walls of the house felt alive, echoing with laughter, warmth, and unexpected love. Morning came with a gentle brightness, the sun filtering through the curtains. Mia was the first to rise, the hope of a new day shining brightly in her heart. She scrambled down the stairs, her eyes flicking to the little bundle curled up on the floor. She said, kneeling beside the pup. Daisy blinked awake, her sleepy eyes brightening at the sight of Mia. Excitement bubbled through the house as they rushed through breakfast, eager to do what they could for their new friend. Sam exclaimed, practically bouncing in his seat. Minutes later, they gathered around Daisy, who sat bemused by the fuss. Lisa gently brushed the puppy's fur, revealing a worn collar that had turned muddy and tattered. Mark carefully inspected it, searching for any tags. There was nothing, just a simple collar resting against her small frame. "I guess no luck," he said, disappointment sinking in, but Mia wasn't ready to give up. She suggested, a burst of determination coloring her voice. As they hit the streets with Daisy in tow, the neighborhood took on a new vibrancy. Every doorbell they rang and every familiar face they approached was an opportunity, a chance to discover Daisy's family. But as the day wore on, hope began to dwindle. People were kind, but no one recognized her. The reality struck like a cold wave. Daisy had no home, no family to go back to. That night, as the family gathered again, the laughter felt quieter, the absence of certainty hanging over them like a thick fog. Mia lay awake in her room, tossing and turning, holding back tears for a life unknown. Daisy curled up at the foot of her bed, soft and warm, but Mia knew the sadness of loss wrapped itself around the entire household. She felt tethered to Daisy, the love so strong, yet the fear of separation looming large. The next morning, Mia's phone buzzed. It was a notification from the neighborhood forum. With trembling fingers, she opened it, heart racing. "Lost puppy found," the words echoed in her mind as she shared the post with her family. She shouted, her heart soaring once more. Excitement coursed through Mia as they hurriedly crafted a heartfelt reply, including Daisy's picture. Time felt suspended as they waited, each moment stretching into hours. What if this was the owner? What if that family was out there, waiting for their beloved pet to return? The thought filled Mia with a mixture of dread and hope. Days turned into a blur. They received no reply. Despair settled in, curling like a shadow in their hearts. With each passing day, the question grew louder: could they keep Daisy? The connection was undeniable. Their emotions intertwined with her presence, pulling them into a tender bond forged in unexpected circumstances. Yet Mia felt guilty thinking of keeping Daisy if there was a family out there aching to find her. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they decided to throw a Daisy Day event in the neighborhood. They spread the word, inviting everyone to come over, offering free food and drinks while sharing Daisy's story. On the appointed day, children played in the backyard, laughter bubbling like the nearby fountain, while adults mingled and enjoyed the sunshine. Daisy thrived in the attention, basking happily in the joy surrounding her. "I hope someone sees her and recognizes her," Mia said, glancing up at Mark, who offered a comforting smile. But as afternoon slipped into evening, they noticed a couple walking up their driveway, clearly unfamiliar yet marked with worry. The woman approached cautiously, eyes scanning the grounds. As they made eye contact, recognition flickered. I'm looking for a puppy," she breathed, the panic clawing at her voice. Mia's heart raced. She asked, hope sprouting anew. The woman's voice broke as tears filled her eyes. With a few steps, Daisy rushed forward, tail wagging as if she had found her long-lost family. In a flurry of emotions, the woman knelt down, lifting Daisy into her arms, holding her tightly as sobs of relief echoed into the evening air. Mia felt a jolt of bittersweet sorrow, but also clarity. This was love in its truest form. She felt gratitude for the short time they had, for the memories they created, a bond that materialized from kindness and compassion. "Thank you," the woman whispered, choking back tears. "You have no idea how much this means to us." Mark rushed forward, shaking the woman's hand, while Mia stepped back, watching the reunion unfold. It was a heartwarming scene of love restored. As the couple departed, Daisy looked back, her eyes shimmering with 1,000 unspoken words. Mia felt a piece of her heart walk away, knowing that love sometimes means saying goodbye. But what lingered was a lesson that transcended the pain of parting. The Johnson family would forever remember Daisy as a whirlwind of joy that had spun into their lives, teaching them about love, loss, and the resilience of the heart. In the quiet aftermath, they reflected on the cozy evenings, Daisy's joyous energy, and the extraordinary moments that had brought them so close. Over the following months, the Johnsons shared stories, created new memories, and grew stronger together. They called the woman who had reunited with Daisy, and to their surprise, they invited the Johnsons over for heartfelt visits. "There will always be love," Mark reminded them as they hurtled into new adventures. And with that, as the seasons changed, the Johnson family continued to treasure each other, knowing that sometimes in letting go, they saved a piece of themselves. Daisy had transformed from a lost puppy into a symbol of hope, one that reminded them that life sways and dances with love's unpredictable rhythm. A desperate, high-pitched cry shattered the stillness of the Johnson household, erupting like a thunderclap in a sunny sky. The family was gathered for dinner, laughter mixing with the enticing aroma of spaghetti simmering on the stove. Mia, the youngest, had just stolen the last meatball, much to Sam's dramatic lamentation when that piercing sound sliced through their playful bickering. Mia's eyes widened, worry flashing across her face. "I don't know," Sam shrugged, glancing at the front door as another pitiful wail echoed from the porch. "That sounds like..." The room fell silent and the air shifted. Mia bolted from her chair, her small hands shaking with anticipation and unease. "Mark," their father called, but it was too late. Mia had already flung open the door, her heart racing. What she saw took her breath away. There, shivering on their welcome mat, was a tiny golden puppy. It was matted and dirty, its fur a tangled mess. The puppy looked up at her, big brown eyes filled with tears as it let out another heart-wrenching whimper. Mia gasped, crouching down to meet the puppy's gaze. It took a cautious step forward, its little body quaking as if it was both scared and hopeful. Sam edged closer, his voice tinged with concern. She exclaimed, her heart swelling with compassion. As if sensing their kindness, the puppy crept closer, nudging its nose against Mia's hand. It was a small, simple gesture, but it ignited something deep inside her, an instinct to protect and nurture this fragile creature. Their mother, Lisa, had appeared in the doorway, her expression a mix of confusion and compassion. Mia scooped the puppy into her arms, the warmth of its tiny body radiating against her chest. "It's a puppy." Mark stepped forward, kneeling on the porch, assessing the puppy carefully. "We can't just take in a stray." "But look at it," Mia pleaded, tightening her grasp. The puppy nestled into her shoulder, sighing softly. "I'll get a towel and some food," Lisa said, her resolve softening, her motherly instincts kicking in. Within moments, she was back, draping a soft towel over the quivering puppy. As they ushered the puppy inside, the atmosphere transformed. The house instantly thickened with warmth and life, each family member drawn to the little creature in awe. Sam asked, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "I think she looks like a daisy," Mia said, glancing down at the puppy, who was now looking up at her with renewed curiosity. Sam chirped, clearly smitten. Daisy began to explore her new surroundings, her small paws patting quietly against the wooden floor. She sniffed at the furniture, her tiny tail betraying her timid nature, a feathery wag revealing a flicker of joy amidst her lingering fear. But as the evening wore on and laughter filled the home, a shadow of doubt loomed over their new happiness. Mark's earlier words echoed in Mia's mind. What if Daisy had a family? As they settled into a cozy night, the worries wrapped around her heart, mingling with the warmth of the evening light. "Mia, we have to figure out if she belongs to someone," Lisa finally broke the silence. Mia nodded, a lump forming in her throat. As night fell, Daisy curled up on a blanket in the living room, her breathing gradually evening out. Mia lay wide awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. The joy of finding Daisy danced with the fear of losing her. Morning light broke through the curtains, a fresh promise unfurling. Mia leaped out of bed and tiptoed into the living room, her heart racing at the sight of the sleeping puppy, soft and serene. There was something pure about Daisy, a sense of innocence that tugged at Mia's heart. She whispered, kneeling down beside her. The puppy blinked awake, tail thumping against the ground with excitement, bringing a smile to Mia's face. She felt connected to this creature in a way she had never expected. Once everyone had gathered for breakfast, they inspected Daisy, searching for any signs of a collar. Mark gently brushed through the puppy's matted fur, finally revealing a somewhat worn collar, but there were no tags attached. "Looks like we might be out of luck," he said, disappointment creeping into his voice. Mia felt a pang in her chest. She suggested. "I'll hop on the computer," Sam chimed in, his fingers already flying across the keyboard for ideas. As they crafted flyers, taking care to include a cute picture of Daisy, hope blossomed within the house like a flower breaking through concrete. "Let's canvass the neighborhood," Lisa suggested. "We'll go door to door, and if no one recognizes her, we can put the flyers up everywhere." They spent the afternoon walking through sun-dappled streets, Daisy happily trotting alongside them, tail wagging and tongue lolling. Every house they approached felt like a tiny world of possibility, the warmth of connection lingering in the air. But with each door that opened and closed, each face that gazed down at Daisy's sweet face and sadly shook their head, a weight began to build in Mia's heart. Hope began to slip through her fingers like grains of sand. Evening fell. Gathered at the dinner table, weary yet hopeful. As Mark served pizza, the chit-chat paused momentarily, the weight of unspoken concern hanging heavy. Mia asked, her voice muffled by doubt. "We need to think positively," Lisa replied, though her eyes held a glimmer of uncertainty. Days folded into each other as the search continued. Daisy thrived under their care, filling their home with joy. She played fetch with Sam, cuddled with Mia during movie nights, and even made an adorable mess in their backyard. But as the days stretched on, the truth was undeniable. Daisy had not been claimed. One night, while watching a heartwarming movie, Mia turned to her parents, returning to a question that had gnawed at her. "Can't we just keep her? I love her." Mark exchanged glances with Lisa, a moment thick with indecision. "We need to make sure it's the right choice," he finally said. It was a difficult conversation to have, one that tugged at their hearts. They had grown so attached to Daisy. Her laughter echoed in their lives, filling the nooks and crannies of their home. As the sun set and twilight descended, Mia's phone buzzed. She sprang up, heart racing, and opened a message notification from the neighborhood forum. Mia's hope ignited once more. She squealed, racing to show her parents. They quickly crafted a response, launching Daisy's picture into cyberspace, praying that it would reach the right eyes. Time crawled, but they kept faith that their beloved puppy would find her way home. Then came the morning when Mia awoke to a text from an unknown number, heart pounding. As she opened it, the message made her breath quicken. "Is this the family with Daisy?" Mia's heart raced as she read the message aloud, her cheeks flushing with a rush of emotion. "Could this be her owner? Let's not jump to conclusions," Mark said, trying to remain grounded. After a few exchanges, they arranged for the family to come over to see if they recognized Daisy. The waiting felt like an eternity, anxiety coiling tightly in Mia's stomach. Then the doorbell rang, a sound that sent every heart racing. Standing on the porch was a couple with eyes wide with longing, clearly holding their breath. The woman asked, barely able to form the words. Daisy, sitting at Mia's feet, perked up, recognizing the voices. She bolted forward, tail wagging, as if she could sense the love radiating from them. Relief and tears filled the woman's eyes as she scooped Daisy into her arms, holding her tightly. She sobbed. Mia stepped back, heart fluttering with mixed emotions. She felt joy for the reunion, but also an ache in her chest, the loss of their dear friend settling heavily on her heart. "Thank you," the woman said, choking back tears. "We were so afraid we'd never find her." Mia nodded, a lump forming in her throat. For Mia, it felt like a bittersweet ending, but it also felt like closure, a reminder of the transient nature of love and connection. As they exchanged final words, they realized how a simple act of kindness reshaped their lives. Daisy had not just been a puppy, she had been a catalyst for compassion, a spark igniting something beautiful within them all. After the couple left, emotions swirled in the Johnson household, sorrow tangled with joy and emotional storms surrounding them. They reflected on their time with Daisy, moments filled with laughter, warmth, and the inevitable heartache of parting. The next days felt quieter, shadows lingering like echoes of laughter that had filled their home. But then, a few days later, Mia received a text. It was from the family, inviting them over for a visit, an open door to forge a new bond. When they arrived at the couple's home, Mia's heart soared. Daisy greeted them enthusiastically, her love spilling out in a flurry of wags and kisses. "That's the least we could do after everything," the husband told them. Over time, these visits transformed into friendship as the two families became intertwined through their love for a little puppy who had taught them all so much. Mia smiled as she watched Daisy chasing after butterflies in her new backyard. A life full of adventure awaited her. Through tears, Mia completed her journey from grief to joy. Each reunion became a celebration, a reminder that the heartbreak contained within love could be beautiful when shared. And while Daisy had moved on, her spirit lived on within the Johnson family, urging them to open their hearts even wider, to embrace the magic of life's fleeting moments. In the echoing laughter and cherubic barks, they remembered important lessons learned, that love sometimes requires letting go, and that kindness can create bonds so profound, they defy the limits of time and distance. The Johnsons would forever cherish a little golden puppy who showed up at their door and changed their lives forever. Daisy became a symbol of hope, a reminder that sometimes the most beautiful chapters emerge from unexpected beginnings. A relentless series of cries pierced through the stillness of the Johnson household, echoing against the walls like a call for help. Inside, the kitchen hummed with activity as the family prepared for dinner. The enticing smell of roasted chicken filled the air, and laughter floated effortlessly through the room. But that sound, sharp and desperate, sliced through their evening harmony. Mia, the youngest, asked, her brow furrowing as she dropped her fork onto her plate. "Probably just a raccoon," Sam, her older brother, shrugged, only half listening, engrossed in the latest game on his phone. But the cry came again, higher and more pitiful this time. It was relentless, pulling at their hearts and demanding attention. "I'll check it out," Mia decided, her curiosity piquing. With a mix of excitement and fear, she raced to the front door, her heart pounding like a drum. As she flung the door open, the sight before her sent a rush of emotions crashing over her like waves against a shore. There, shivering on their welcome mat, was a tiny puppy just a few months old. Its fur was a tangled mess of dirt, its little body trembling, and those big brown eyes were filled with tears, pleading for a chance. Mia gasped, kneeling down. The puppy took a tentative step forward, then let out a soft whimper that tugged at the very core of her being. Their dad, Mark, had appeared behind her, concern etched in his features. Lisa, their mom, followed close behind, her heart instinctively drawn to the sound of the trapped creature. Mia cried, cradling the puppy in her arms. The puppy leaned against her shoulder, seeking comfort. Mark crouched down, examining the little one. "But we can't just take in a stray," he cautioned, but his voice had softened. Mia pled, her voice earnest, panic rising in her chest. Sam joined in, his excitement bubbling over. "Let's give her some food. We can take care of her for the night and then figure it out," he suggested, already beaming at the idea. Lisa, swept up in the moment, rushed to the kitchen, grabbing dog food from the pantry, her maternal instincts taking over. Meanwhile, Mark took a moment to assess the situation, slowly nodding. "All right, just for tonight," he agreed, a hint of a smile creeping in. Cheers erupted from the kids, and as Lisa prepared a cozy corner on the floor with old blankets, Mia and Sam celebrated the arrival of their new furry friend. Daisy, as they decided to name her, sniffed around tentatively, taking in her new world. As the evening progressed, laughter filled the home as Daisy chased after a squeaky toy, her little paws dancing clumsily on the floor. Mia and Sam's hearts swelled with joy, but an undercurrent of concern began to weave its way back into their minds. They had grown very fond of the puppy in a mere few hours, and the thought of losing her was daunting. "I really hope she doesn't belong to someone," Lisa murmured as she watched Daisy play. That night, Daisy curled up beside Mia on her bed, a tiny bundle of warmth and love. As the young girl drifted off to sleep, she couldn't shake off the growing worry. What if Daisy had a family searching for her? Each peaceful breath from the puppy began to feel like a promise they might have to break. Morning arrived with the golden rays of sunlight spilling across Mia's room. She sat up quickly, her excitement sparking anew. The moment she peeked over the edge of her bed, Daisy blinked at her through sleep-custom eyes, tail thumping against the comforter. Mia grinned. Downstairs, the family began inspecting Daisy for any signs of a collar. With gentle fingers, they combed through her soft fur, but it was Mark who finally spotted it, a small, slightly tattered collar that hadn't seemed like much at first glance. "Looks like someone's been caring for her," he said, touching the collar carefully. But upon closer inspection, they realized there were no tags attached, only a worn fabric that hinted at past love, empty of identification. Lisa sighed, her heart heavy. "We need to find her family," suggested Sam, a wave of enthusiasm washing over him. Together, they crafted a heartfelt message, incorporating Daisy's picture, and oversaw Mia as she walked to neighboring houses, knocking on doors. Each interaction felt like a moment filled with uncharted hope. Would someone recognize their little love? But as Mia chatted with the lovely old woman next door, a chill began to settle in her heart. Nobody seemed to recognize Daisy. Each door that closed behind them felt like a last chance slipping away. The evening loomed heavy with reality. Sitting together at the dinner table, the talk of food faded into an air thick with unsaid words. As laughter slowly quieted, Mia finally spoke. "We're doing everything we can," Mark replied gently, pitch dark with uncertainty hanging just above them. Days passed. They poured their hearts into caring for Daisy as she learned the rhythms of the household. Laughter filled the corridors as Daisy played her little games, each wink of her eyes filling their hearts. But the uneasiness lingered, patiently clawing at every moment of joy they had found. One sunny afternoon, as they tossed a ball in the backyard, Sam paused, his hands on his hips. What if? Mia could feel their eyes on her, the silence amplifying the gravity of the question hanging in the air. Could they truly keep Daisy? Every day they spent with her felt like a thread weaving them closer together. Just then, a text notification popped up on Lisa's phone. "Found puppy near Oak Street." Their hearts surged with renewed hope. Mia said, her face glowing with excitement as she dashed into the other room to respond. After a flurry of texts, they arranged a time for the puppy's family to come meet them. They could feel tension building within their own walls, a contrast of emotions, swirling excitement mixed with fear, joy blended with sadness. When the day arrived, the anticipation filled the air with electricity, a roller coaster, looming just before the first drop. The doorbell rang. It felt like the moment before a storm. Nervously, Mia opened the door to reveal a couple standing there, eyes wide with desperation. The woman exclaimed, breathless. Daisy barked excitedly, scrambling over to her new friends. It was an impeccable moment of joy and relief, and the truth washed over Mia like an unexpected tide. This was the moment they had both dreaded and anticipated. The woman fell to her knees, tears streaming down her cheeks as she embraced Daisy. "Oh, my darling," she cried, the weight of love spilling into the air like a burst of sunlight. Mia held herself in silence, watching the tender reunion unfold. In the joy of the moment, she felt a part of her heart break away, knowing they would soon have to say goodbye. "Thank you so much for taking care of her," the man managed to say, filled with gratitude. Mia stepped back, still holding Daisy's collar in her hand. As laughter and tears intertwined, Mia felt the warmth of togetherness circle around them, hope and compassion shared in this fragile moment. And even though the family had to part with Daisy, they had discovered something unexpected: love in its purest form. Once the couple left, uncertainty danced in the air. The gravity of what had just transpired settled in, and the Johnson family felt heavier, like a storm cloud threatening to burst. Days turned into weeks, but deep down, a warm memory of Daisy lingered, her spirit woven into the fabric of their household. They often shared stories about the time when a puppy had knocked on their door, a moment that had forever changed their lives. Then one day, they received a message from Daisy's family. They wanted to invite the Johnsons over to see their beloved puppy again. The idea of seeing her was unbearable yet thrilling. When they arrived at the couple's home, they were greeted by joyous shouts of recognition. Daisy bounded toward them, tail wagging, her bright eyes radiating happiness. "Thank you for everything," the woman said, wrapping Mia in a warm hug. In that moment, every worry slipped away. The kindred spirit of love that had briefly united them flourished. Laughter filled the air anew as the two families became one, connected by a shared experience, forever bonded by the little golden puppy who had captured their hearts. From then on, their lives intertwined playdates at the park, messages of love and laughter shared often. The Johnsons learned that love is not just about possession. Sometimes it's about letting go, allowing joy to spread. Daisy had come to them for a brief moment, only to return to where she truly belonged. And through that journey, they found not just a dog, but a profound lesson etched into their hearts forever, the realization that life is often richer when shared with those we love. In the quiet of the night, as stars twinkled overhead, the Johnson family felt the warmth of togetherness wash over them. They had opened their door and their hearts and learned that sometimes the best stories begin unexpectedly, leading to connections that defy understanding. Through a simple act of kindness, a little puppy changed their lives forever, serving as a shining reminder that love transcends barriers, creating bonds that can last a lifetime. And as Mia drifted off to sleep, dreams filled with wagging tails and warm embraces surrounded her, a gentle reminder that love indeed finds a way home. The evening sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow across the Johnson family home. Inside, laughter echoed as Mia and Sam bickered over the remote control, their playful shouts blending with the aroma of homemade tacos wafting in from the kitchen. It was a scene of perfect normalcy, the kind of evening that felt wrapped in cotton candy clouds of happiness. But outside, something unexpected stirred in the shadows. A high-pitched whimper broke through the joyous chaos, slicing the air with raw desperation. Mia's voice dropped, her playful demeanor evaporating. Her heart raced as she exchanged glances with Sam. "It's nothing," he shrugged, unconcerned, still focused on the screen. Yet the piercing cries continued, interrupted by whimpers filled with sorrow that demanded to be addressed. "Mom, Dad," Mia shouted, her voice laced with urgency she couldn't explain. Their parents rushed into the hallway, confusion warped with concern. Mark asked, glancing between Mia and the door. Mia threw open the front door. What stood before her made her breath catch in her throat. A small, trembling puppy no older than a few months sat on the welcome mat. Dirty, scared, and shivering, it looked up at her with wide, soulful eyes filled with tears. With each cry, it seemed to plead for help, the sound igniting something deep within Mia's heart. "Oh my gosh," Mia gasped, dropping to her knees. The puppy stepped forward, its tail wagging hesitantly as it ventured closer. Sam edged closer, his initial doubt giving way to intrigue. Mia cried, her heart swelling with compassion. Lisa, their mother, knelt beside them, reaching out a gentle hand. "Hey there, little one," she cooed. The puppy sniffed at her fingers, then nuzzled into her palm. Mark moved closer, inspecting the puppy's dirty coat and fearful eyes. "We can't just take in a stray," he said, though his voice softened. Mia insisted. The puppy looked between them, tail beginning to wag as if sensing their kindness. "Let's see if she has a collar," Lisa suggested. As they ushered the puppy into the warmth of their home, the atmosphere shifted. The familiar sounds of laughter enveloped them again, but now with an urgent sense of purpose. Daisy, what they decided to name her, trembled in Mia's arms but gradually settled against her chest, warmth spreading through both of them. They set about making a cozy spot in the living room, laying down blankets and a small bed. Daisy's eyes sparkled with curiosity as she explored her new surroundings. The children took turns offering little toys, delighting in her innocent antics as she chased a makeshift ball, a tumble of fur and joy. But as the night deepened, a weight settled in the back of Mia's mind. She would drift off to sleep, but always with a lingering worry. Would Daisy's family come looking for her, or were they already too late? Morning light streamed through the kitchen window, revealing a glimpse of a new day. Mia leaped out of bed, excited to see the puppy again. She rushed to the living room, only to find Daisy already awake and wriggling with joy. Mia chirped, hugging the fluffy ball of energy tightly. The family gathered around the breakfast table, and the excitement shifted to concern as they inspected Daisy for any evidence of a home. Mia's heart sank when Mark found the collar worn and frayed, but empty of tags. "Looks like nobody put their contact info on here," Mark said, disappointment creeping into his voice. Mia wondered aloud, looking more distressed as the realization settled in. "I feel like we should put up flyers," Sam suggested, his enthusiasm battling with Mia's uncertainty. The family worked together to create flyers, taping images of Daisy to lampposts and mailbox stands in their neighborhood. They included a heartwarming description, hoping someone would recognize their lost love. Days turned into a blur. Time felt elastic during their many walks through the neighborhood, Daisy trailing happily behind, tail wagging wild with joy. But as they encountered greeting faces, but not one matching Daisy, the tiny glimmers of hope began to fade. One evening, deep in their routine of movie watching with Daisy nestled at their feet, Mia turned to her family, her voice quavered. "But we're doing everything we can," Lisa replied softly, her hand brushing Daisy's small head. Mia couldn't bear to think of what could be happening elsewhere, carrying a sense of loss that distracted her from the joy of having Daisy around. Mark cleared his throat, a weight settling on his shoulders. "We need to make sure that's the right choice, Mia." Days drifted into weeks, and the golden furball filled their home with laughter, but the emotional weight of a family still searching nagged at Mia. She ached to know where Daisy truly belonged. That evening, while scrolling through their neighborhood group online, Mia froze. There amidst the posts was a new message: "Lost puppy last seen near Oak and Pine." Her heart raced as she opened the post, aligning their timeline with the lost puppy's description. She wasted no time. She shouted, running to her parents. Mark and Lisa gathered around as she quickly typed a response. "Yes, we found a puppy that matches your description, and her name is Daisy." As the hours rolled by, anticipation thickened, wrapping around them tightly. Would Daisy really have a family? "Mia, it's getting late," Mark suggested, though he too was restless. "I can't," she replied, pacing nervously around the living room. Sleep felt impossible, time crawling as they watched the room bathed in moonlight. Eventually, Mia collapsed onto the couch, and dreams blurred their tired eyes. When dawn broke, the chirping of birds heralded a new promise. Mia woke with the fresh hope that today could change everything. As she grabbed her phone to check the notifications, it felt like a jolt of electricity coursed through her. There it was, a response to their message. Heart hammering, she opened it. "Please call us." Tears pooled in her eyes as Mia raced to find her parents. "They're coming?" Sam asked, his voice tinged with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Lisa wiped her hands on her apron, ready to prepare them mentally for this emotional roller coaster. Mia nodded, holding Daisy close as they anxiously awaited the arrival of Daisy's family. Moments felt like hours. A storm brewed inside her, a whirlwind of hope and fear, each moment swirling together in a dizzying blur. Then came a knock at the door, sending shockwaves through Mia's heart. Her breath hitched as she ushered her parents in. "Here we go," Mark murmured, shooting her a reassuring smile. As Mia opened the door, she found two people standing outside, expressions akin to that of sinking ships desperately seeking light. The woman cradled an empty collar in her hands, tears pooling in her eyes. They locked eyes with Daisy, who seemed to recognize something instantly. The woman's voice cracked, reverberating with urgency. As if hearing her name, Daisy's tail began to wag furiously. Before anyone could process what was happening, the puppy bolted forward, leaping into the woman's arms, showering her with wet kisses and unfiltered joy. Emotions swirled like a tornado, swirling with relief and heartache all around. Mia stood frozen, her heart beating wildly, caught in a tide of conflicting feelings. She watched as the woman hugged Daisy tightly, her own tears spilling over, wiping the grass and dirt from the puppy's fur. "Thank you so much for taking care of her," the woman sobbed, looking at Mia as warmth radiated from her eyes. Mia's heart split in two, elation mixing with sadness. She stepped back, her mouth dry. The reality of the moment washed over her, crisp and unavoidable. She had gotten so used to Daisy's company that letting her go now felt like ripping out a part of her soul. "I just wanted her to be safe," Mia managed, feeling the weight of her own sorrow, realizing that sometimes love means letting go. Disbelief spread through the room, where joy and heartbreak danced together. The rest of the family stepped forward, wrapped in the warmth of gratitude. "You don't know how much this means to us," the man said, his voice shaky. In those moments of shared understanding, connections were forged. The bond built between two families encircled them, strengthening through the love they shared for a small puppy who had simply wandered into the world in search of warmth. "Mia, if you'd like, we'd love to keep in touch. You're part of Daisy's story now," the woman said, her eyes still locked onto the little pup nestled in her embrace. But just as they began to breathe, just as hope was rising in the air, a dark figure materialized at the edge of the yard, something they hadn't expected. A neighboring dog, eyes of turmoil blazing, sensed Daisy's presence and let out a growl that reverberated through the air like thunder. The woman tightened her grip on Daisy, confusion and fear flooding the moment. "No, no," she shouted, tilting her body protectively. What unfolded in that instant sent waves of shock crashing over them. Daisy, seeing the other dog, began to fight against her owner's hold, barking instinctively as if recognizing the threat. The world around them slowed down, surreal, a snapshot of tension. Mia cried, fear gripping her heart. No. As the other dog lunged forward, the very fabric of their happy reunion teetered on the edge of chaos. In mere seconds, everything they had just celebrated could unravel, and Mia could only watch as the storm brewed on the horizon, threatening to sweep them all away. Would the moment slip from their fingers, the connection they had forged be washed away in a tide of turmoil? The air thickened with uncertainty as they stared at the unfolding chaos, knowing that the next few moments could change everything.